What's up, everybody? This is Frederick Douglass Bussey. You're tuned in to another edition of the Breaking Orbit podcast. Celebrating myself because I got the name right. Sometimes I mix up the name of my podcast, so we have to remember which one we're doing. But today we're going to be talking about how to stop self-sabotaging. And we're going to get started right now. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, please make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. If you're watching on LinkedIn or Facebook Live right now, welcome. Feel free to drop a comment, a question below if you have one. We're happy to entertain questions as well. We take this live, and I want it to be as valuable in the moment for you as it possibly can be. So thank you for stopping by and spending time with us as we talk about how to stop self-sabotaging ourselves, how we can become better leaders, better entrepreneurs, and get the things that we want, build the things that we want without tearing them down. That being said, let's get started. In the news today, there's a couple of big things that have been going on. We've seen Elon Musk, who has been fighting to stop buying Twitter after making a bid for $50+ million to buy the company. And recently I saw that the Twitter shareholders had voted to accept his offer, which means now they're moving forward. He has to go through litigation, and he's trying to stop buying the company, and they are trying to force him to keep up his end of the bargain. Also, the other day, the NBA suspended Robert Sarver, who is the owner of the Phoenix Suns and the WNBA basketball team there. Forgive me, their name slips my mind right now, but he was found out in an independent investigation of being guilty of having said some misogynistic and racist things in private conversations, as well as in the boardroom in meetings with other team employees and executives. And so they suspended him from team and activities and league activities for up to a year. And why are we bringing this up? Because we have seen over and over again powerful people who are in positions of success and power, having stumbled over their own feet and made huge mistakes that have cost them careers, businesses, things of that nature, right? Like Chris Cuomo on CNN, who got into trouble and eventually got fired from his job on CNN because of the way that he was back channeling with his brother's campaign, Governor Andrew Cuomo, to get involved in giving them information that was supposedly helping them to deal with some political situations he had going on. Over and over again, we see people that have worked very hard to get to a position of prominence and success get in their own way, right? And we often think of self-sabotage in terms of people not being able to ascend to the ladder. When in reality, I think that what we don't understand is that there are narrow lanes in which people are often able to be extremely disciplined. And then outside of that, they lack the discipline or the ability to get out of their own way. And so eventually, these other areas, or this other seemingly secretive area, actually begins to seep into the area where they've had success in their career, in their business, whatever the case may be. And so even Elon has had allegations of sexual misconduct and things of that nature. Why is this so important? It's because we often think that we can segment parts of our lives, that business and the personal are not linked together. And I was having a conversation just a little while ago on a call with another entrepreneur. And I was sharing with them something that I say over and over again, which is that I believe that business and entrepreneurship is the greatest personal development vehicle that there is, because it forces you to come to grips with the things that are keeping you from getting the results. But sometimes you have learned how to get the results without having had the discipline in other areas that will eventually cost you in the long run. A story is told of an archer who was an elder statesman. He was older, and there was a younger archer who knew of his legendary status. And one day he came to challenge him. And he said, "Old man, I can run circles around you." And so he pulled out his arrow and pointed it at a target, and he shot an arrow into the target, hit dead in the bullseye. And then he took another arrow out and split that arrow in two and said, "Can you do better than that?" And so the old man didn't reply. Instead, he took him high up into a mountain, into where there was a gorge that ran a deep gorge between the mountain and another ridge. And there was a fallen tree that had fallen across the gorge and bridged the two sides. So the old man took out his bow and he stepped out to the middle of that log, the middle of that fallen tree. And calmly he pulled out his bow and his arrow and shot 3 arrows into a tree no short distance away. And then, without a word, he turned and he motioned to the young archer to take his turn. And so the archer tentatively stepped out into the log, and he could see how unsteady it was. And so his knees are shaking and his hands are shaking as he pulls out the bow. And he's trying to focus, but his eyesight is getting blurry, and he's sweating, and he's looking down, and he's trying to avoid being scared. And he takes a hesitant shot and misses the tree altogether. And the old man gives a wry smile and he says, "So much control over the bow, so little control over the mind that looses the arrow." When we do not have control over our minds, we lack the ability to control the things around us. And mindset is a huge thing that many people like to talk about. It's a buzzword today. You got to control your mindset. You got to have a high level, high performing mindset. But one of the reasons why we lack the ability to control our minds is because we do not understand what is required to do that. Why does it matter if you are stumbling over your own feet, if you can't get out of your own way, if you lack the impulse control to be able to do certain things? And in reality, the truth is that we have been conditioned and programmed to think that certain things are more important than others, and that the outward visible success comes from this external exertion of effort, right? So if I just focus on doing the things that get the results, then that's all that matters. And you'll see people over and over, they're taking courses, they're watching videos, they're reading books on how to do XYZ, because they believe that the doing is the thing that matters the most. And what I want to suggest to you today is that the doing is the least important part. The doing is a result of the being, right? And we have this construct where we believe that things go in this order, that in order to have the things that we want, we have to do the things that are required. And that by doing those things and having those things, we will be this person, right? I will be successful. I will be a millionaire. I will be the envy of my friends. I will be the object of affection for this particular person, right? So we believe that the order is do, have, be. And in reality, the order is reversed. The things that we do are a result of who we are, the things that we be, if you will. And so mindset is at the foundation of being. Being is at the foundation of mindset. Being is at the foundation of mindset because when you know who you are, it frames the world around you and how you interact with it. And very often what you see with people who are susceptible to stumbling over their own feet, getting in their own way, self-sabotage, what they are doing is revealing that there is a deficiency in their thinking. There is a blind spot that many leaders have Many entrepreneurs have. And until they can get past the blind spot, they can't see the things, they can't see and understand the things that are holding them back. Hey, Mirza, good to see you, man. What we don't understand is that we need control over the mind that looses the arrow. And the more control we have over the mind, the more control we have over the outcomes that we are creating in our world. You cannot control the world around you, but you can influence it infinitely more if you have the capacity to influence your own mind. How do we do that? There's a couple of ways that we do that. Of course, the things you consume have a great deal of impact, right? The environment and surroundings that you put yourself in, right? That's one of the reasons why I love being in masterminds and different groups, because being surrounded by other people that are thinking and learning at a high level and are executing at a high level influences my own ability to be able to perform and to influence others as well. That's a really important thing. But at the core level of it, many times we do not get into these circles. Many times we do not take the investments that we need to take or make into ourselves. And I'm not just talking about monetarily, but the time to learn a new habit, the time to read a new book, the time to ask a question or seek the answer that can really be helpful for us, the time to look for the blind spots that could be holding us back. We don't take the time to do those things because we have lost sight of the most important, the most foundational part of that's who we are. So in my book, Breaking Orbit, I talk about how you discover your gift, your unique and powerful capacity to impact the world in a singular and particular way. And why that's so important is because who you are in your identity forms the basis for everything else. Who you are in your identity, who you believe that you are, who that you know that you are, influences your every thought, every action, or reaction at the core of it. It doesn't mean you'll always act with integrity, but you cannot act outside of integrity of who you are. So if you do not believe that you are a certain thing, you will not execute in that way. Many of us suffer from self-sabotage in our businesses and don't realize it because it is a blind spot. Because we are doing something that is actually more in alignment with who we believe we are than the things that we say, the things that we tell ourselves, the things that we post online or tell other people, right? In the end, you will always act in alignment with who you truly believe that you are. And if you're acting, your foundation or who you believe you are leads to the actions create the results, the outcomes. So the things you have are related to the things that you're doing. The things you're doing are related to the belief that you have about who you are. So in short, to go back to the story, your inability to hit the target with the arrow is linked to the fact that your mind is betraying you. It does not have the ability to focus, to control the arrow that is loosing into the target. And eventually, it will find you out. Eventually, you will burn down the things that you have built, taken so long in your life to be able to build. I tell people, as a business coach in our consulting practice, we help entrepreneurs turn sandcastles into skyscrapers. Sandcastles, if you build them on the beach and you build them especially too close to the shore, as the tide comes in, it begins to wash them away. And so you have to keep scraping up sand to be able to keep the shape of the sandcastle, which is very frustrating. And it robs you of the joy of having the things you want to build. But even if you stay there and you build that thing, if you have to leave that night, when you come back, the tide will have washed away all that you have done. And in many ways, we play the role of the tide. We kick over our own sandcastles. We prevent ourselves from building these things that can be dominant and impactful and significant because we get in our own way. We have to learn to be able to control our own minds. And that's an important thing. If you are struggling with that, let me know in the comments below. Drop a comment and say, hey, Sometimes I'm stepping out on that tree and my hands are shaking. Maybe there's some blind spots that you have and you want to explore that. And here's the thing, it can be scary to admit that we're struggling with something. And this is why we get to build a circle of people around us that can support us in what we are doing so that we can see those blind spots, we can discover them, and then we can be able to navigate around them to be more successful. Because here's the thing about your blind spot, it will always be there. And unless you have a tool, a rear view mirror, some other person that can reflect that to you and show you what is there, you're eventually going to hit that thing that's in your blind spot. Here's the other challenge. It is hard to go full speed ahead if you're always having to look behind, if you're always worried about the thing that you don't know. And so if you have somebody that's watching your six, if you have somebody that's looking out for your blind spot, if you have somebody that's helping you to navigate through that, now you are no longer sabotaging your progress. You're not eating into your own momentum. You're not slow walking your own journey. You're able to lean fully into the thing that you are meant to do, the thing that you are designed to do. And you're able to create the intentions that you want in your world, in your business, in your life. So if you're always having to worry about things nipping at your heels, always having to worry about things that are hidden from you in some way, you can't move forward the way that you really need to. Stop letting those things self-sabotage you. For those of you who would like to read other stories like that and to hear more, Breaking Orbit is the book. It's available on Amazon. I'll drop that link here. For those of you who would like to discover your blind spots, we run challenges, we do coaching and things of that nature, but first that starts with a conversation. So maybe you like to reach out, send me a comment or send me a message, whether you're watching on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook. If you're in the Facebook group, 7-Figure Circle, $1 Million Mastermind, feel free to drop that as well. But let's find out where your blind spots are. Let's have the courage to lean into that. I have people that help me with this all the time. It's extremely valuable because I don't know the things that I don't know. And even the things that I do know, still I forget. And they can creep away. But if you want to fortify your mindset, if you want to build a skyscraper and stop building a sandcastle that you have to keep rebuilding morning after morning, day after day, then maybe it's time for a conversation. Okay? I appreciate all of you who stopped by, those of you who have commented as well. For those of you who have not yet had a chance to do, I encourage you to like and subscribe as well. And I appreciate each and every one of you. Hopefully it's been helpful for you in some way to be able to continue to help you to break orbit and to soar higher. I'm Frederick Douglass Bussey. As always, ever forward.